whereas this new one is not.
Why are we off-centered? Let me look at this.
Oh, by the way, your title card is misspelled, but I didn't want to say it.
My title card? What's it misspelled at?
You have the I in the wrong place.
Okay. I can fix that even while we're doing this. When I made it last time, I kind of just like rushed it, so I literally threw all of it together at the last second. So I'm not surprised there's a misspelling. It's in the word vomitorium, isn't it? Because I really rushed just like typing that really fast. We are set to just us. Why is the crop wrong?
It says vomitorium.
I know why the crop is wrong. I don't have the chat open on our screen. I have the request to speak.
Oh.
There we go. Now the crop is right.
Oh, cool.
There we go. Yeah.
We're doing it live. Doing it live.
Yeah. But I could just go to studio mode, so they can't see me doing this on the back end. I can go to the loading screen.
Yeah.
I can go to the title here, and I can just go fix that from a toy room. You know.
Vomitorium. It's just a dyslexic moment with your fingers, probably.
Yeah, well, it's just the R and the I are swapped, right?
Yeah.
So I typed it too fast.
Yeah.
There we go. Fixed.
So here's an article that I strongly disagree with. Just to start with, real quick.
Okay.
Well, I don't know exactly because I'm not going to listen. I guess it's in a podcast or something. But like the headline says, Nintendo Switch 2 needs to be as powerful as its competitors.
I saw that one too, and I disagree on the headline alone.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I think it needs to be as powerful as last generation. And I think it's going to be like as powerful as PS4,
Yeah.
you know, and its contemporaries. But it does not have to be as powerful as PS5.
Well, I do think it probably needs to be more powerful than last generation. But I think people don't understand how big of a jump it is, and that's also why there was a huge price spike, where it's like I think the PS5 is like at launch was like $100 more than the PS4 was at launch, right? And there's good reasons for that with how much they try to like almost bottleneck the system by making it as powerful as it could be at that time. And making everybody push for it. It's like, you know, the games aren't going to get any better for the rest of the lifetime now. Because you're pushing people to use the full extent of this system at launch, right? Instead of just... I have no problem with them making it as strong as they did. You just shouldn't have been pushing people so that games could, like, gradually grow throughout the launch.
Yeah. But I don't know that... I mean, do you have to... With, like, a PlayStation... Do they have to even like learn how to use it? Because it's like, isn't it basically the same as the PlayStation 4, only faster?
I'm not sure what the differences are with the operating system, but I do believe you don't have to learn that much. And that's because most people are using prefab engines like the Epic Game Engine that has a basically publish to this OS button on there. And yeah, you do have to go through and you have to actually check to make sure things work, because there are some nuances of the system. Maybe you'll have to fine-tune some things, republish it for the system or whatever. But it's not like the old days where going from GameCube to Wii was a massive difference and you had to learn like all the idiosyncrasies of the system itself.
Right. Yeah, where it would take years to sort of figure out the little hardware nuances and
I think the Switch is that way too.
Trick. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm betting it is.
That's why they're putting out that dev kit so early.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't. Nintendo hasn't needed to be as powerful, like the most powerful or as powerful system since.
Yeah, I would say it has to be.
They stopped doing that. Contemporary
to phones at the time. Which almost, like if this was the old day, that would be like, that's a really low power requirement. But I mean, you've seen modern phones. Modern phones can play more than a PS4 or an Xbox One could, right? especially looking at like there are phones that have that NVIDIA Tegra, like the newer version of it, so they're already more powerful than the Switches. I think if they just keep up with phones, which is the major gaming market right now anyway, they'll be fine, right? They'll be able to play most things. A lot of companies are even starting to scale things down a little bit anyway from where PS5 and Xbox Series are to be able to put more games out on phone at the same time. That I think as long as Nintendo can keep up with that, maybe a little more powerful so there's some breather room so phones can catch up, then they'll be fine for a generation.
Yeah. Yeah, and I tempered my previous statement about being dissatisfied with the power. It's all the games that I have on the Switch work just fine. The performance is great.
Yeah, it's all about
just
the
my
third
only
party.
my complaint is that not all of the modern games are going to be coming to the Switch because they just can't, because they would have a problem.
Yeah, and there's a few that would be cool that are on the horizon, but judging some of these companies too, I actually don't even think some of these games that I think would be cool in the Switch will come out until the next Switch is out, right? Because a lot of companies will be like, "Hey, here's a game we're making." 3 or 4 years later, it finally comes out. It's not like they gave you this announcement halfway through the dev cycle or anything. They'll give you the announcement the second they start working on it.
Yeah, and I'd love to see like Metroid Prime 4 with just unbelievably gorgeous graphics and fidelity and just not cell shaded like Zelda. It would be awesome if it was like extremely realistic and like PS4 quality.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I want it to be extremely realistic, but I'd want it to be like as stylized as a Final Fantasy game could be, right? Like I still want it to look like Metroid, which involves like not the highest saturated colors when we look at Metroid Prime, but they're still more vibrant than like your average shooting game is. Especially with like Samus's highly reflective armor, and Samus has like almost anime-esque form to her. So if it looked like a Final Fantasy game in the modern day, I'd be perfectly fine with that level of realism in the graphics.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just talking about like sometimes you're in outside areas, and I want the grass to just like be blowing in the wind and look like real, things and rocks, and I mean just like the environments to be super ultra realistic looking.
Yeah,
but
I think,
I mean,
this is
in the Metroid style.
Yeah, and you find this out if you actually dig into like the assets for the old Metroid Prime. So if you're like in a brightly lit area, like you're on one of the outdoor rocky magma planets or whatever, that the textures that you see are basically exactly as you see them because of the way it's lit. If you're actually in like one of the internal space station areas that are all like really creepy and darkly lit, they're actually using the lighting to tone down the assets so that it still looks good. They're actually very like super saturated, and then the dimmer lighting is what pulls them down. And I like that idea because then it evens everything out. So even though you're in this dark space, it still looks as good as if you were outside.
Yeah. And I watched a video with one of the creators. I think it was one of the original creators of Metroid Prime 1, I guess, talking about talking about the re-release for Switch and how the lighting changed and how they still had to make compromises on the lighting and sources and stuff like that.
Oh, especially those inside areas. Everything would look too bright with the modern lighting.
Yeah, and there was like a limit to like I guess when you shoot, there was for some reason the original version lighting came from the ball of energy that you shoot. And in the new one they like didn't do that for some reason. Like it won't light up a corridor in the way that it did in the old one. And he was saying there's a reason why they had to do that, because
even though like
overall
functionally it should, right?
Yeah, and it did in the original, but they were like, even though these aspects, and I don't remember the details, but there was a good reason. And they said, overall the lighting is better, but
I trust them that there's a good reason, because they've been doing a stellar job at the games they've been making since around the GameCube era. So
yeah. But anyway, I was just saying.
Well, speaking of the Switch,
I can't wait for the Switch 2.
the next generation. It does seem, if it's coming out as soon as they say it's coming out, that the Switch will very comfortably be landing in third place of the highest selling consoles of all time. If it comes out then, it does not have enough time at the rates it's going, even with holiday seasons, to pass up its competitors. One of them being another Nintendo system. So it's probably going to be maybe, what is that, 130 something? Yeah, third. DS and PlayStation, or is it DS and PlayStation 2, I think, are going to keep it.
Oh, I wasn't thinking of the DS because I was thinking home consoles, but yeah. So second most home consoles, but
yeah, and second most handheld.
Yeah,
it gets both of those, but it'll be third overall because it
respectable.
Might pass 140, right? It might get about maybe 145 if they're lucky, but they're not going to pass the 155 mark that they need to get into like first place.
Which one was it? The PS2 that got 155?
Yeah, the PS2 I think is slightly outsells the DS.
Yeah, just barely. Which is amazing. I always conflate the DS and the 3DS. I know they're very different, completely different systems.
Yeah,
completely different game formats and all that. But
DS cells include everything from when the original DS launched to, I believe, the DSi are actually included in that. Even though it did have some digital wear that is unique to it, functionally it's still a DS. Oh, hey, Mike. Thanks for the like and share.
Yeah. And 3DS sales.
No, I'm never ready for Friday, but I'll be there.
3DS sales also includes 2DS.
Well, yes, because anything that they call the same family. So there was a DS family and there was a 3DS family. But speaking of sales, what's cool is even if the console's not going to get into first place, it might end up in first place in other ways. Because right now, the Nintendo Switch has passed the 1 billion games sold mark. Which is fucking insane.
What's in first place of games sold?
I don't know. I actually don't know. But 1 billion is a very crazy number that it has to be something like the PlayStation 2 or something. 1 billion games is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's already in first place. I don't know who's keeping track of these metrics to look.
I'll have to look at the charts.
Yeah.
Software. Oh, VG charts. Why you do me like this? Platform totals. There we go.
VG charts on the daily over here. My brother's obsessed with it. Anytime we bring up a conversation about how games are doing.
Wow. Yeah, it's nowhere near first.
Yeah. What is the?
No. So it's past 1 billion. That's fucking amazing. Which means it just passed the Xbox 360.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Which at about 1.008 billion, and the Switch is at 1.088 billion. Number 2 is the PlayStation 4 with 1.4 billion, and the PlayStation 2 with 1.5.
See, that's crazy.
Not the
PlayStation 2. I'm not surprised with the PlayStation 2 because it's been around for years, and the nature of the fact that it is backwards compatible, but it's not forward compatible. What I mean by that is you could get a PlayStation 3, but a lot of PlayStation 3s could not play PlayStation 2 games, right? I think literally only the launch version of it could, because it like literally had a PlayStation 2 inside of it or whatever, and no other version did afterwards. So if you still wanted to play PlayStation 2 games, or you had to buy a PlayStation 2 after that. I think this might be the thing that would stop the Switch from ever passing up the PlayStation 2. Because the next one seems to be that it's going to be completely forward compatible in that sense, where you don't need to buy a Switch anymore to buy, like, it's backwards compatible, which means the Switch sadly is forward compatible, right? The next system will be able to play all of its games, and you don't need a Switch anymore.
Yeah, but as far as software is concerned,
that's what I'm talking about.
So I think the Switch has many, many more years of software sales to stack on here.
But I don't know if it does.
But so here's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
So I never owned a PlayStation 4. I own a PlayStation 5, and I've bought dozens of PlayStation 4 games. Do those count for this total? I would think so.
Maybe, but here's another problem, right? And this is actually something me and my brother were talking about. Right now, we're only looking at like physical sales of games for the most part. We don't get digital sales until quarters later, whenever they're reported, right? It's easier to report physical sales because we can look at like what stores actually sell, right? But Nintendo's been reporting that most of their sales, so it could be even higher than that 1 billion mark for all we know, because Nintendo hasn't reported everything. Most of their sales are digital these days. They're actually more than 50% of their sales are digital. If you buy a Switch game digitally for the next generation, that's not going to count as a Switch game. If you buy a physical one, I think it still counts because it is a box marked for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, but you might be buying Switch games that play on the Switch too.
Yeah, if you're buying physical ones. I think that would still count towards the thing. But if you bought, like, say, Mario Odyssey on the Switch 2 digitally, then that's only going to count as a Switch 2 sale.
Will it, though? I don't know.
Because I have not seen the digital sales towards PS4 games on the PS5 count. And that might be PlayStation pushing it because they're trying to make it look like the PS5 is getting more sales than it actually is. I don't know. But I've been seeing last generation sales, if they're digital, count on the system it was bought for. Like through whatever the shop. And they could tell if you're buying it on a PlayStation 5 versus 4 digitally. They could tell what system you're using.
So this is all physical. It doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't.
But it does say all figures are total shipments from manufacturer.
Yes. Which means
so that's physical.
Yeah.
So yeah, nobody's ever going to pass the PS2 because
it's only physical.
Yeah, because it was okay. So,
yeah. That's why I said that PS2 number doesn't surprise me. Honestly, though, the other two do surprise me. And you said it's shipment.
PS4 and the Switch.
Yes. No, the Xbox was the other one.
The Xbox 360.
Right. And 360 was a very popular console for Microsoft's sake, right? But it's still an Xbox, so it's never as popular as the other ones. Those go to store. That's like reporting comics sold to stores, sales. Right? So we don't know how many people actually ended up bought those. Yeah. The PlayStation 2, I believe, landfills? Massively popular console, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the Atari 2600 sales include? Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know what the Atari 2600 sales include, but it probably includes all the landfills. Yeah, because they went to stores at one point, and then the stores had to offload them in warehouses and stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Just my way of reminding you. Yeah. Well, thanks for the reminder. Because did I forget? I think I probably remembered twice this week, but I am liable to forget that stuff. We'll be going over Silver Street Comics Volume 1 and 2 from Lev Gleason. Which, when he first mentioned that, I had no idea what Lev Gleason was. I had to go look into it. And there were, like, very, very few names I even recognized. And it wasn't the one we're reading. So it'll be interesting. I do like reading old comics I've never read before. Yeah. But no, I bet it does count the landfills because it went to stores.
Yeah. If it went to stores. I bet the manufacturer dumped them.
A lot of them did probably come from like an Atari warehouse or whatever their localized printer was. But anything that went to stores, for sure, they counted.
You want to hear something super sad, though? Because this does have Atari 2600 on it.
Yeah.
This list. Atari 2600 sold 120 million units of software. You know, it's just below it with 103 million.
What?
The Wii U.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Terrible.
And a good bulk of that is probably Mario Kart. Right?
Yeah.
Because Mario Kart, before it was ported to the Switch, sold more copies of it than systems sold of the Wii U.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is crazy.
So
yeah, I'm going
to say there's some weird. Oh, what's below that?
Sega Saturn, PlayStation Vita, Dreamcast, Game Gear.
Yeah, all things that make sense.
bunch of other shit.
I like the Vita. Software-wise, I thought there was a lot of good games on it. I never bought one. I only emulated because they were really stupid with their kind of
The memory card, right?
yeah. They had their own solitary memory card that nobody else could use. Like, just use a fucking SD card. I'd buy your system. It's like, no. We need to make more money. No. I'm not buying a system for that. The memory cards cost more than the games did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are those proprietary Sony sticks.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
And it's like, if they were only using those for the games, like how the Switch uses the cartridge, I'd be fine with that, and I'd just pay for the game. But they were using that, and they were still using some form of like the UMDs from the Vita, so it was like some type of disc spinning in there. And like, I don't want to deal with this. You're making me deal with two proprietary things that one or the other. At least the PSP only made me deal with like micro SD cards.
Yeah.
And the discs, but there was only one proprietary thing.
Yep.
But yeah,
Well, that's all I have to say
I
about
don't believe the numbers on. Well, I mean, I believe the numbers because I went to stores, but I don't believe that it matches with what purchases actually were, much with many comics for PS4 and Xbox 360. I think Nintendo Switch will probably be safely in second place of the actual most games sold. Most of these billions are still probably counted just sold to stores, but Switch games, I don't know if you've ever seen those shelves, they're pretty empty most of the time. People are actually buying Switch games. And then if we count digital in there, it may or may not come close to the PlayStation 2. I wouldn't be surprised if PlayStation 2 still passes it.
I wouldn't be surprised if it had sold more, because I mean,
just because most of their sales are digital.
Don't you think at least half the sales are digital?
It has to be, well, half the sales to customers, right? There are definitely still unsold Switch games that stay on the shelf, but not to the same degree as some of these other ones. Maybe if we even them out, it might equal that 1 billion have been sold directly to customers through digital. And then there's also 1 billion that have been to shelves, and some large portion of that. So yeah, maybe we could roughly say 2 billion have been moved in some way.
I have no idea, but
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Would 2 billion put it in first place? What's the first?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
PS2 was 1.5 billion.
Oh, okay. Well, you said not even close. I mean, 1 billion is fairly close to 1.5 billion.
Well.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hard to move that in the last year of your lifetime, but I mean, it's still pretty close. Yeah.
But I'm saying since PS2 didn't have digital.
Oh, yeah. That's all
Switch
just
does.
sales to store. And we don't even know how much of those. Like, the PS2 was so successful that they still probably moved more units to stores than actually got sold. So.
Maybe. Yeah, they're probably still in bargain bins somewhere.
But it's probably a low percent, right?
Yeah.
Even on a successful console, you could probably bet maybe anywhere between 10 to 20% are things that just stayed on the shelf just because they moved so much of it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Probably less than that. I would say 5%.
5%?
Just because.
PS2
because think of all the
so
games that,
popular, I would not be surprised. Especially with resale stores
I'm just
being
thinking,
popular back then, too.
Yeah, because I'm sure a lot of the games just completely sold out. And whatever they had left would just be sort of the final sort of generation of games and the lowest quality. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but for every Spyro Year of the Dragon or whatever that sold out, you also have Barbie's Dream Castle.
Yeah. True. We're just guessing.
But yeah, they could be in first place for that. I think it's very, very possible if we ever get an account of the digital sales. It'll probably stay that way, though, because I do think most of the old Switch games that are digital will be sold on the Switch 2 after this point. Like, or not after this, after the crossover point.
Yeah. I guess the question is, I have a different idea of what you would count that as, just because.
Yeah, I'm just going by what I've seen in the industry, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Right. Because, like, virtual console type games, you wouldn't count that as a sale for the original system. Now it is the first digital, but if multiple systems had virtual console, like say the virtual console was made for the 3DS and there was a same game on the Switch, you wouldn't count it as a 3DS sale.
Well, yeah, but it's a version that can play on the Switch. I guess it depends. Yeah, because
No.
I don't know. It's messy because
This is the problem with backwards compatibility in
Yeah.
a digital space. Yeah.
which isn't really a problem. It's just a matter of
Oh,
trivia,
just for
but-
metrics. That's it. That's all it is. Just for metrics.
Yeah, but yeah, like there's games on the PS5 that say they have a 4 and a 5 version.
Yeah.
So when I buy it, I obviously download the 5 version, but I could actually play the 4 version on the 5. It's-
Yeah, but they would count both of those as PS5 games. Again, that could be Sony pushing it because it makes their console look like it's doing better than it's not, but they would still count both of those because you bought them on a PS5.
I guess.
Yeah. And, I mean, the problem is that there is, other than VG charts, there really is no, I guess, third-party guideline that everybody accepts, right? Like, all of us would have different opinions on it. And personally, maybe I would side with you, right? I'm just going by what I see in the industry. And the only people that get to decide without having, like, a regulated third party that everybody agrees on is the manufacturers themselves, which on a manufacturing level really is just 3 people. It's Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony.
Yeah, I don't care one way or the other. It's
Yeah.
Whoever makes the chart gets to decide, I guess.
Yeah.
But okay, so just to add to this interesting story, 48.2% of Nintendo's 2023 sales were digital.
Oh, wow.
That may not apply to previous years, but yeah, it's a 5% increase from the previous year. So it's entirely possible they may have passed the 1.5 million
Oh, yeah.
or billion mark in sales.
Yeah, well, I think it's it dropped and then it's going back up. So it was above the halfway point during, you could probably guess it, the COVID pandemic, when people weren't leaving their houses and people were basically just getting things digitally because it was quicker than even just waiting on Amazon to deliver your game to you.
Yeah.
And then it dropped after people could go outside again, and then it's been rising back up.
Yeah, wow. Was it closer to 50% in like 2020, 2021, I guess?
It was above 50 in 2020, and then it was going back under, and then it obviously it's rising back up again.
Yeah, cool.
Which is why, like, when Nintendo says over half our sales have been digital, I believe them just from the pandemic, and a lot of their biggest selling games shipped during that time. Like Animal Crossing was during the pandemic, and then because of Animal Crossing, there's a lot of people buying other things.
Yeah, that game alone was probably like 80-90% digital sales. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My copy is digital, you know?
Me too. Oh, by the way, did you want to do the intro?
We totally can, you know. Hey, welcome to the Vomitorium, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer, who I guess I could ask how you're doing.
Yeah, we're already 30 minutes in. I think we've covered that.
Yeah.
But I was gonna just mention I finally beat the main story of Pikmin 4.
Oh, okay.
And I take back one of my main complaints. I was under the impression that you only get 3 onion colors, so that you can only grow, red, yellow, and blue Pikmin, I guess. I was completely wrong.
Yeah, those are the 3 default Pikmin.
Yeah, eventually you get every single color. So you can even grow purple and white Pikmin.
Okay, that's cool.
So, yeah. Now, to get the purple and white onions, you have to do a final challenge after the main story. But all the others are in the main story. The flying, the rock, ice, all
You
of the
just
other
didn't
colors.
find them before.
I just hadn't run into them yet.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like that at least those you have to do like an extra challenge for. I was actually, you were complaining about it. I was looking forward to the fact that you were only going to get those onions because every Pikmin game, I want some type of challenge. And to me, the way you're explaining it, having to go and get the resources of the other Pikmin would be like that level of challenge that's in the game.
Yeah, but it's not really, the way they did it isn't really a challenge so much as just an annoyance, because until you get the onions, the only way to get more of those color Pikmin is to go into an underground area and they're just there, and you can basically grab. So like for instance, there was one item that you need 100 purple Pikmin to pick up because it weighs too much for anything else.
Yeah.
So the way I got 100 purple Pikmin was I went into an underground area. I plucked like 15 of them because that's all that was there. I left. I went back in, plucked 15. I left. I did that like 7 times or 5 times, something like that. I was like, that wasn't a challenge. It was just fucking annoying that I had to do that. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it'll be good. Yeah. But but I do agree with you that it would have been an interesting challenge, or it is kind of an interesting challenge to say, okay, at this point in the story, you only have like 15 flying Pikmin, and there's really no easy way to get more. So you kind of have to challenge yourself to figure out ways to use it.
Yeah, like it's just a different form of resource management, which is kind of what Pikmin has always been to some degree, is like figuring out how to get resources, how to use your resources when and stuff. But it was like a child-friendly way of doing a resource management game, and as long as it remained child-friendly, I'm fine with that. I don't need the challenge to be an adult level. It's not a game that's made for me, other than the fact that I'm a fan of the franchise, so I'll continue to play it.
Yeah, and also, like, I don't know, I'm still a little torn on the environments. I think the environments, the stages in Pikmin 3 were way more interesting. You know, you had to jump onto lily pads to go floating down a river, and there's all this like dynamic stuff happening all going on.
Yeah, still having some of that puzzle aspect in some way.
Yeah. You had to figure out how to. You had to, like, there was one stage where you had to figure out how to get the river flowing so that you could jump on a lily pad. It would take you down, and then it was really complicated.
Which has been kind of a staple since the first game. Instead of having like specific puzzles necessarily, like a Zelda block puzzle or anything, the environment itself was a puzzle to be solved. So if you needed to get somewhere, you needed to figure out what do you need to do to get that place.
Yeah, in this one, they did not do that. Some of the environments are very interesting.
Yeah.
There's a house where you get up on the counter, and there's like a sink full of water that you have to, deal with, and there's a stove that's, on that you have to deal with.
Very Chibi Robo.
Yeah. But the most complicated thing is like there's a hole that you have to dig through to get to a certain area, or there's a thing you have to knock down to get through. There's nothing complex or dynamic.
The crossover that needs to happen. I want a Pikmin Chibi Robo game where the obviously it wouldn't be Olimar, and I forget what his people are called, but a little Olimar-like guy comes crashing down. Maybe he's got the Pikmin stuff with him already into the household with Chibi Robo, and they have to work together doing different things to play the whole game, almost like the Phoenix Wright Professor Layton crossover. I want that game. Nintendo, make it. You have both of those properties. Yeah, and there is also a challenge. It was basically a challenge stage after the main story. You go and you talk to Olimar, and he like tells you about his adventures up to that point. And so there's a 15-day challenge that you have to play through. Where you only have 15 days, and that's it, just like the originals. And you have to find all of his spaceship parts. And Chibi Robo would be bigger than Olimar too.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I'm like doing the math in my head, and I think Olimar is like the size of these two dice stacked on top of each other. He's pretty small, and I think Chibi Robo is like the size of this Switch grip turned to the size. Like I think this is about the size difference between the two.
Yeah. So yeah, there's an interesting, and you start out that challenge stage with none of your other abilities. Like later in the game, you have the ability to like pluck all the Pikmin instantly that are in a big circle.
Yeah.
And call, and like if there's any idle Pikmin, call them all to you, no matter where they are, and stuff like that. You get those abilities later, but when you play the sort of the challenge stage, you got none of that at the beginning. It's just basic. You're Olimar and you're starting over from scratch. So that's kind of a cool little side story.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, I like it overall. Has some upsides and downsides. Probably would give it a lower score than Pikmin 3, but still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just having this tendency. Nintendo games, they're still rocking it for me. Like, they're still making more enjoyable games than their competitors are on average. I think they're higher quality. They do seem to be suffering a little bit here and there from the whole games have to be easier for a wider audience kind of like mentality. Now, they have a little bit more of an excuse. Their general audience are children. And at first I thought maybe these games just feel easier because I'm an adult. I was a kid when I first started playing them. But like I'll go back and I'll play the same games, which should be easier because I've played them more. So I should have more mechanical skill in them. And like say the first Pikmin is just a much harder game than even the third Pikmin is. It's almost like a slight downhill slope, you know? And there could be hardware restrictions at the time that could have also caused it. Like there's kind of like this false difficulty in older games because of like what they could do on the hardware. But like Nintendo's always been really good at using the hardware to the fullest and trying to make sure that they planned everything within the restrictions. So that shouldn't be too much of a detriment to the game, right? So I don't know. I do think it's just like everything's kind of becoming easier because that's what you have to do for a wider audience. Mario Odyssey, I think, found the perfect balance between that, though, because it had some really challenging parts that like really made you feel like you were playing Super Mario 64 again.
Yeah, I'd say Mario Odyssey is the best 3D Mario.
It's got enough easy things that anyone could get through the game, but if you want to do everything, you have to have the same mechanical skill that you had in Mario 64.
Yeah, it's funny when it first came out, there was stuff that I try to get to certain moons that I just could not do, but my son figured out how to do them. I was like, oh my god, how did you do that? It's like to be young again and have those reflexes.
Yeah. I didn't have any trouble, but I think also before it came out, I was like super hyped. And I was looking at the way it plays, like, oh no, a lot of that stuff I can do in 64. So I was doing some runs of Super Mario 64 prior to Odyssey dropping. And I was like in the zone. I obviously had to figure out all the different things you could do with Cappy, like throwing him and bouncing off of it and stuff. But like for the most part, like I was just zooming.
Yeah.
Fistozo has a question I guess I could answer. Are there any actually good sandbox games that exist? Yes, tons.
Early ones.
Razorfist did a good video on this, from sandbox to blandbox. I think we talked about it last episode. Yeah. And a lot of the early sandbox games were really good. Again, go play. You've played them. You like Morrowind. Old Elder Scroll games were sandbox games. They were fun. A lot of old MMOs are technically sandbox games, littered with like NPCs and stuff, because a lot of them didn't restrict where you could go. It's just if you went somewhere that you were too low level, you were going to die. But they weren't like, hey, you have to hit this certain part of the story before we let you go to this zone. Final Fantasy 14. But they were technically sandbox games, and they were fun. They were sandbox games you could play with a ton of other people at the same time. A lot of old sandbox games are great. These days, I don't know. They're few and far in between. There are still some. I guess technically the two new Zelda games are sandbox. I don't think I'd call them great by my standard of Zelda, but they're good games. They're well above average. I would definitely put them in that area.
Yeah. And I think Tears of the Kingdom is better because there's more to do.
I think
it's going to run into interesting things all over the place.
Because we have different opinions on it, but I find your opinion valid. I think there are different reasons you would like one over the other, and they're all valid reasons. It's not like either of them are a bad game, And right now I am liking Breath of the Wild more, but I actually think I like it more because it is a tighter game in some ways, right? And I think it just does it better. But like I can see perfectly why people would like Tears of the Kingdom more.
Yeah, there's just Tears of the Kingdom I find a bit more overwhelming. Because there's just so much. There's different kinds of orbs and what are those things that increase your battery life? And
there's too much.
There's so many things to collect. Like, oh my god, there's too much to do. Don't know what to do next. But I am in the Gerudo Desert right now, and it's interesting. There's Gibdos everywhere.
Before when you said like I finally beat the main story, I'm like, oh, did you finally finish doing everything you plan to do in Tears of the Kingdom? No, you were talking about Pikmin.
Oh yes, yeah. No. I definitely. I'm not even. I just went back to Tears of the Kingdom last night because I've been playing nothing but Pikmin 4 for the last 2 weeks. But no. Now I'm going to finish Tears of the Kingdom.
You're looking for games you could play on PC. I'm trying to think, is there a really good sandbox game that I liked that you can play on PC
now, sandbox is just really another word for open world.
Yes, right? Well, it's the original word for open world. There are slight differences. So a sandbox really just doesn't restrict you from doing what you want to do within the framework of the game. Open world doesn't really restrict you from going where you want to go. It's almost like a box within a box, right? A open world is a slightly more restrictive thing that is the same as a sandbox.
I mean, is No Man's Sky?
Yes, that is totally a sandbox game. That is more than just open world. I think they were even selling it as a sandbox game originally.
Yeah, and I've heard that it's gotten a lot better from the original.
I've heard it's actually a great game now. It took too long to get there. It's been that way for a while, but it still took like, I think somewhere between 3 to 5 years to actually become a great game, which is not why I'm not getting it. I was just never interested in it in the first place, but I loved laughing at it when it was a piece of shit that they sold to people. But hey, give the devs credit. They didn't give up on the game. They kept working on it until it was something their customer base actually wanted. And then they gave them more than that as almost an apology.
Mm-hmm. So there you go, No Man's Sky.
Yeah. No Man's Sky.
Some people like Elden Ring. If you like a challenge.
Yeah. Would I consider Elden Ring a sandbox? I think I would just clearly call it open world. It's not even that it really restricts you. It's just like I don't really think there's too much to do in it to give it more than just the open world title. It's fun, I'm just trying to think what else.
Yeah, there's not much to do except fight enemies and get better gear. That's pretty much it.
I would say on PC, go back and play Daggerfall. If you enjoyed Morrowind, and you think Oblivion's boring, go backwards, go to Daggerfall. Though you might also find that boring. I don't know. One of the cool things about Daggerfall is not only is it a procedurally generated world within parameters, it's also fucking huge. Any place that you go to takes real time to get there. So your character moves at like a normal human speed within the engine of the game. If you're just walking, it's like 2 miles per hour. If you're like sprinting, I think it's like roughly 12 because you're not actually sprinting. It's more like a run or a jog. You're not pushing 17 like an athlete. But still, it takes you whatever amount of time it would take you to walk somewhere in real life to get to that place. So if you want to go a town over, it might actually take you hours to walk there.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is cool because there's a lot of random shit that happens to you along the way.
Mm-hmm. I've seen Rust. It seems pretty popular.
Yeah, Rust is definitely a sandbox.
Yeah.
To some degree, I would say, what's that one game that we normally like? Don't Starve is technically a sandbox game. It's limited because the engine's limited, but within the engine, you can literally do kind of whatever you want. So I would definitely say that's a survival sandbox game.
The only thing with Don't Starve is I always have the wiki up at the same time. I'm like, how do I cook that one thing, and what does that require? I can never remember.
Yeah.
What's Rust?
Oh, what's Rust? Rust is it's a survival game where you build things. It's one of the older ones that it's kind of like took the idea of building things in Minecraft Then they took like realistic assets and they made a survival game, and a lot of what's it called? A lot of mods came out of it. That's actually where a lot of the battle royales you're used to came from, like Rust mods.
Interesting.
I think PUBG actually started.
I knew
as a Rust
what
mod.
it was. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't think Rust was that old.
Yeah, Rust is pretty old. No, sorry, it wasn't Rust. Even though Rust is pretty old, I think it started. H1Z1 started as a DayZ mod, and I think PUBG was made out of the popularity of those games. So I think I'm at DayZ because of the zombies. But Rust is actually fairly old at this point. I think it's got to be like what, almost 8 years old.
First released early access 10 years ago.
10 years. Okay, I undershot it. But yeah, it was pretty old.
I guess I was thinking I didn't hear much about it until the full release, which was 2018.
There are some battle royales that came out of Rust, but I think the older ones actually came from DayZ. I think that's older.
Never heard of that.
I think it's older. They should be about the same time because I remember when those games came out. DayZ was like another game like Rust, but it was like zombie centered and everything. It was a zombie apocalypse type game.
Cool.
Yeah. So, still on the subject of Switch, technically. We have Nintendo. It's got its quarterly report for games coming out, like what their plans and stuff, because they have to put these out every so often. And we have the games that have already started coming out, and then games that are coming out next year. So the first thing on the list, things that we already know, Pikmin 4, which has launched, but this list predates that launch. Then we have Detective Pikachu Returns, which is going to be on the 6th of October. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is looking like it's going to be the 20th of October, which I'm excited for that. We keep going. WarioWare Move It's going to be the 3rd of November. Super Mario RPG is going to be the 17th of November. And now we get to the titles. They've got 3 on this list that are uncertain dates, right? The first one, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon temp spot, which we know that is coming out. But I mean, this list clearly predates the direct that told us about that. And that's just 2024. The last one on the list.
2024?
Yeah, that's when it says it's going to be 2024. The last one on the list is Metroid Prime 4 temp, which is to be announced. It doesn't even have a year. It's still just TBA. But it's still confirming that they're thinking about it. It's showing up in the quarterly reports and stuff. It's not just sitting in production hell. But in between those games, there's another 2024 one. And it's that Princess Peach game. The funny part is the title that they have in there. And it's a temporary title because they don't want people to be able to tell what type of game it is from the title. They don't want to give anybody clues. They're learning from the past. So the title is Princess Peach will star as the main character in a brand new game. That's it. That is the temporary title for the game.
Sounds like the perfect final release title. It's like an Untitled Goose Game.
Or like it's like one of those random slice of life mangas that how their titles just a full ass sentence, and they're always like the best thing that you read. It's like why?
Yeah. They should call it Untitled Peach Game.
Yeah. Well, actually, what they should do is they should keep that title and they should launch either a light novel or a manga about the game with that title first, and then have the actual title of the game released afterwards.
Can you read it again?
It's Princess Peach will star as the main character in a brand new game.
The game.
Yeah, just that's it.
Great.
I thought it was funny. Apparently, a lot of the other internet did. A lot of tweets are like, "I vote for that being the official title."
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
you'll never forget
mentioned
it once you buy it. Like you'll never forget it. What's not mentioned?
It's well, at least you didn't mention it, but I think it's supposed to release this year. Is Fantasy Life 2?
Well, that wouldn't be on the list
Fantasy
because
Life
these were
5.
just Nintendo first-party games.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's a level 3 game, I believe.
But yeah,
God,
no,
I can't
you're
wait.
excited for that. You and your girlfriend are probably going to play the shit out of the game. Yeah.
I think, she's a huge fan of like Rune Factory and Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley, all those types of games. And this isn't exactly, well, I mean, it basically is. She told, like, we were actually talking about it last week. She was like, yeah, that's my favorite of all of those kinds of games.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it may be her favorite game of all time. It's the original Fantasy Life.
Hey, that's fine,
Yeah. She played it probably over 1,000 hours. Like, unbelievable.
Oh my God. I'm talking about games that you sung too much. I was going back through and thinking of Wild World because it was 2 movie nights ago. We were watching the Animal Crossing movie, right? And I'm like, God dang, I think I've spent somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 hours playing that game. And that's not even like of Animal Crossing Wild World specifically for the DS. Right? It's not even like a gross overestimation. Yeah. Like, I legitimately probably spent somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 hours on the 11 years that I owned that game.
I would guess that Animal Crossing New Leaf, I've probably spent more hours than any other game ever.
Yeah.
Especially if you include Pocket Camp, which is basically an extension of Animal Crossing.
I don't think
New
you
Leaf.
would. Now, if you said Happy Home Designer, I would probably include that, especially because they gave like free DLC upgrade to use some of the Happy Home Designer stuff in New Leaf afterwards. Yeah. I would say those are basically the same game, but
well, even without Pocket Camp though, mm-hmm. I would guess maybe Don't Starve. I'm not sure, but either Don't Starve or Animal Crossing New Leaf.
You weren't contacted for the Animal Crossing stream. I didn't contact anyone. I actually tried to avoid doing the at everyone's when I realized that there was a what's it called, a checkbox for even the events that we run on the stage. I unchecked it because I don't want people like, say, Nerd Wonder, who's trying to close the notification and ends up in the audience anyway. I don't want to bother people, I did add a role called Moviegoer. If you want that role, just reply to it, or you can ask me right here and I can give you the role. But if you want to be a moviegoer, you can get the role, and I will do a post when we're about to go live where I tag the moviegoers in it. So people who want to be bothered will get bothered. Otherwise, I do have the events set up. You can always just look at the events. Most of them at any given month are live streams, right? If you want to watch it like live in the studio audience here in the stage room. Or if we do have movie nights, which are going to be every Thursday, the next movie will be queued up in the event section too. And in the news. Check the news section on the Discord. I post everything there now. Our next movie, our last movie was Batman Mask of the Phantasm, where Buck, I think, was the only one showed up, and we were kind of together geeking out about how much we like the movie as far as how it portrays Batman, the other characters in it, Gotham itself, and specifically its relation to the Timverse world of Batman, right? Because there's obviously going to be some idiosyncrasies of any individual world. And in that one of the things we like, Joker's got like the most variable origin out of any character in any version of Batman. Joker was always a mobster. And they kind of talk about that and reveal that in Mask of the Phantasm, because it talks about forward and backwards in time of like what happened in year one of Bruce being Batman and what's happening now in the present day. And it even showed Joker as a mobster before he became the clown. And it's a very good movie. I really like that. And next one's going to be Scott Pilgrim versus the World, right here. That's what we're watching. So come and enjoy it.
I've seen it a million times, but it will probably be the one that I actually show up for.
Yeah. I haven't seen it. I wouldn't say a million. Yeah, it's a fun way to say it. If I'm going to be honest, though, maybe 30 times, which is still a hell of a lot for seeing a single movie.
Yeah, there was a tweet the other day by someone I follow asking, what movie have you probably seen the most times of forever? And I said Fifth Element without even hesitating.
I believe that. Yeah.
So like every time it's on TV constantly, it seems like. And every time it's on, I just have to watch it.
Oh yeah. No, it is one of those movies I can't flip by if I see it.
Yeah, it's like Fifth Element.
I've probably seen that one. Trying to be realistic about it, maybe 15 times, which people are like, that's not a lot. No, it is. I want you to actually honestly go back and think about how many times you've watched a movie, right? If you've watched any movie 10 or more times, you've watched that movie a lot because it takes a long time to watch a movie. There are people like, I've seen that movie 100 times. Like, no, I know you're exaggerating. Good luck saying you've seen any movie 100 times. If there's any movie the only one that probably comes close, it's probably somewhere in the 60s to 70s. But if there's one that could have been 100 times, it's probably The Nightmare Before Christmas. And the only reason I say that is because I watched that movie so many times throughout the year as a kid that the tape, the VHS, was actually starting to wear out. Right, and that's the only reason that one even it comes close. But some other movies are like Tommy Boy, Knight's Tale, things like that.
Yeah, and I think Galaxy Quest I've seen.
Oh yeah,
probably
I've seen that one a lot too.
The second most. Yeah, but if you've seen Scott Pilgrim 30 times, did you say?
Yeah, some of it was for academic reasons and showing other people. That's the only reason I know I've seen it that many times is because I've had to count.
Yeah, I mean, I say I've seen it a lot, but I don't think I've seen it that many times.
Yeah, the reason I know is like it's harder to count the times that I've seen it by myself, but I can count the times I've seen it by showing it to other people and who I showed it to, and I can estimate it's probably been about 30 times.
Wow, so you've probably seen it more than I have.
Probably, yeah. Now that's it is long to see a lot of movies. Like I said, 10. Yeah. If you've seen a movie 10 or more times, then you really like that movie. You've probably seen it more than most people have.
Yeah.
My dad, though, I think I'm just kind of like suited for seeing things multiple times like that, even though I would prefer to have a brand new experience. My dad can just watch the same stuff over and over, and he doesn't get tired of it. He's watched through Seinfeld all the way through at least 10 times since we've been at this house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And he just watches the same movies. I will walk out there, and Galaxy Quest might be one of them, but it'd be like, are you watching Starship Troopers for like the 6th time this month? If there's a single person on the planet who says he's seen multiple movies 100 or more times, that's one of the few people I would believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I can actually say there might be other movies that come close to Scott Pilgrim and unintentionally, right? Like, even though I like other movies more, I've probably seen the movie Grandma's Boy close to 20 times. And the reason for that is my buddy, Brian, right, was a really close friend of me growing up. All of us, we would just go to his house on the weekends during high school and stuff. Right, that's just where we went. We all hung out there. And what he would do sometimes it was more the weekends. I've spent entire weeks at his house before. But he would just put a thing. He like DVR'd it or whatever. And there would just be the same movie put on almost loop for a month. He would just leave it on in the background while we were doing things. If we weren't playing a game on the TV, this weird movie that was like a competitor to Scary Movie called Shriek If You Know What I Did Last Friday the 13th would just be on in the background, right? So there are movies I had no intention of seeing multiple times, and I've probably seen them more than movies I actually like. Some of them you kind of grow to like. Like, my favorite Christmas movie is Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds. And I don't know if I can be objective about this movie because it was one of the ones that he just left on in the background, and I've seen it so many times. It's almost like the movies become a friend, like a form of Stockholm syndrome or something, you know?
Just Friends. I don't know if I've seen that.
Yeah, no, it's a great one. I think I bring it up every time I talk about what's your favorite Christmas movie. The second behind that's probably The Family Man with Nicolas Cage. But Just Friends, Ryan Reynolds plays a former fat kid who was on the cheerleading team and had the hots for like his best friend, right? And there was like this huge scene that happened at her party near high school graduation stuff, and he ran out and she never saw him again. He grew up to be this really, Ryan Reynolds, suave, fit music producer, right? And his client, played by Anna Faris, is like this super big pop star, and he's flying her to like an event or whatever, but they have engine trouble and they go down. And then when he finds out where they are, it's like, we're 15 minutes from the town I grew up in. So he takes her while they're trying to get the plane fixed and everything over to his hometown, and he runs back into his best friend / dream girl. And obviously it's a rom-com, so hilarity ensues, and it's great. People should watch it. I said I'm biased. I don't know if I could be objective about it, but when I watch it, I still laugh my ass off. So I do recommend people watch it.
Yeah.
It also took me forever, even though I've seen it so many times, to remember the name, right? Because it Just Friends is such a simple name that it doesn't stand out to you. And it took me looking the movie up like 50 times before the name finally just like sat in my head.
Yeah, I really haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to put that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that.
We'll probably have a movie night during the holiday season on it.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to wait till then.
It got decent audience ratings.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the movie. It's just one of those cases when you're forced to watch something that many times, you either learn to love it or hate it. So at this point, I just don't know if I can be objective about it. But other people think it's good. No.
All right.
Let's see, what else do we got? I got a lot of stuff. GameStop finally decides to give up on crypto after a year. Can't believe it took them a year, but
yeah, just like Square Enix, didn't they give up when they changed?
Didn't they change, kind of
CEOs.
Well, they did. They changed. They have a different, the same role, president / CEO. He takes up both spots in their company. Which I like this new guy. We've talked about several times. I think he's a fan of their old stuff, and he seems to want to take things in a better direction. It wasn't crypto directly. They said they gave up at Square, but it's in the same. It's the overall family. So NFTs, yeah, which is technically a form of crypto. So it's going to cover the whole blanket there. But they basically gave up on NFTs with him. It might be for similar reasons why GameStop's giving up, because I think one of the reasons GameStop was hopping in it is because a lot of the video game companies that they sell games from were getting into it, and they're just going to be part of that boat. And I think they should probably not take it either. There's some places I think it's perfectly fine, especially if you're like a smaller business. If you want to take it, the risk is on you as the owner. But if you're a big corporation, with how volatile crypto should be, you should never take that as a sell. And people should just, like, I don't know, go sell their crypto first if they want actual money to buy something with it. And then like a commodity. You should actually treat crypto like a commodity and not a currency, with maybe Bitcoin being the only exception. But that's like treating gold as a currency if you want. It's coin.
Well, I'm really into crypto lately, although not like,
yeah,
not like putting my life savings into it, but just like doing a lot of research.
Well, I'm talking about for physical establishments. If you want to trade as money digitally with crypto, I think that's perfectly fine. Obviously, the internet and digital trade is what crypto is kind of built for.
It's looking like XRP could end up being a very interesting digital currency, like an actual currency a la Bitcoin.
But I don't think an actual boutique, right? If you go to a physical store that is owned by a large corporation who has to manage its risks, should probably not accept crypto as an actual currency that you can buy things in.
Yeah, unless it's a stable coin or something. Even then, it's still there's a little risk.
Yeah. It's just less risky. Yeah, but I don't think GameStop should be dealing with crypto. And they were trying to deal with their own,
Were they
which
just?
I think was a dumb idea in the first place.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What were they doing with it? Were they basically saying you could buy stuff from us with crypto, or just they were making their own? You were saying.
Well, they were trying to. I think they were also accepting it in some places. They had a extension for iOS and Chrome for crypto wallets, and they're removing it as of November 1st. So they're still keeping it on for now, probably to let it feather out. But they're giving the warning November 1st. We're removing it. Any customer with access to their secret passphrase has the ability to recover their account in any compatible wallet. Because I think one of the things you had to do is you had to take the acceptable crypto. And you had to transfer it basically into like the equivalent of a GameStop coin. So basically you were selling them their crypto for Chuck E. Cheese tokens that you could use at GameStop so they could then sell it off for money itself. Right. It was all weird. It's basically like spending money for an in-game currency, but not actual money. Because crypto is kind of sort of a commodity in a way. It's like buying a mineral, right? That you could use as money. So
it's like you said, it's like a Chuck E. Cheese token.
Yeah, right. So it's like getting a bar of silver, and it's like it's silver. It's got worth, but it's not worth to you until you sell the silver. Or some people who understand the worth of silver. That's all it is. You have to treat it like a mineral commodity, and they're like, you give us your silver, so we could sell it, and then you get the Chuck E. Cheese token in return that you can use at our place. It's like an in-store credit.
Yeah, it's really dumb for a company to make their own crypto that you're not going to be able to use anywhere but with them.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like a quote unquote good idea that the board came up with, but it's not really thinking too far ahead. Okay, but so why would anyone want this unless they specifically wanted to buy something from GameStop?
Yeah, to a small degree, like I can understand using it like a Chuck E. Cheese token, like an in-store currency, because then you could keep all your eggs in the same basket in the way of like if somebody returns something for in-store currency instead of having like the numbers 6537 on the account. They can actually just have like the equivalent of the coin. Like you can purchase things with this, and then it's all one thing. Like I understand wanting that from like an efficiency standard. It's just still stupid.
Yeah. I mean, even a huge company like say Twitter, like I don't know if Twitter or X, whatever, I don't know if they're going to come up with their own token, but they're going to be. I don't know what my point is. I think they'd be better off if they want to accept payments and stuff like that using an already popular thing like Dogecoin.
Well, I think they'd be better off integrating Dogecoin for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be better off staying limited to Dogecoin. If that was their primary currency, I think it'd be better just to make Twitter, but you'd have to do a lot of different things, and I think this is what he wants to do, making it a payment processor. If Twitter could also function as a digital wallet, like a hot storage where it's all on their servers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that would be better overall. And then you could choose as a seller what you'd be acceptable. Like, I'll take subscriptions in Dogecoin, or I'll take subscriptions in Monero. It doesn't matter because I'm fine with selling either of those things.
Yeah. Or Pepe coin.
Or whatever. Yeah. Whatever you're comfortable with. And also if it's approved by Twitter, because obviously they have to take a cut of it. But, if they just go the wallet route, which I think fits in the payment processor route that he wants to go anyway, then that would be smarter than just latching yourself to only one coin, but you can still keep it like your proprietary coin.
Yeah. I still don't think it's a good idea for game companies to get involved in NFTs or whatever. I'm not even a whole, I can sort of think of ways they could, but none of them sound particularly compelling that you couldn't do some other way.
I think, and I've talked about it too with NFTs, right? And we could bring the crypto into it. There are certain things that would be cool to do. There's a lot of ways that you could just do it with a server, but if you're trying to have like an extra level of encryption, doing it on a blockchain would be fine. If you had a digital trading card game, like I've said before, NFTs are fine with that. It'll give it more of that real life trading card aspect that you could trade between individuals. There's a lot of things like that where if you want to trade assets individually and not just between the marketplace of the server, then that would be fine. You could use crypto in the same way. If you turned your in-game currency, your Chuck E. Cheese tokens, into crypto, then what you could do is open up, instead of just having people buy one direction from your store to sell it to your store, you could also have a marketplace between users where, like, oh, I've got this thing, like a gacha game. I've got a copy of this unit that I don't want, and you want this unit. And I want to use the in-game currency to buy something else in the store. So I want to sell you the copy of the unit that I have for your in-game currency. And if it's like an NFT crypto situation, you could do that. And then the game company still makes out because the amount of currency that's in the world stays the same. You just ended up using it on somebody else's account, basically. And so you'd still have to pay the game company for the total amount of currency circulating the world to go up.
Yeah.
There are ways you could do it that I think would actually work. These companies aren't smart enough or care enough to actually do that.
Yeah. This shows wants to know how good are the Gothic games. I have no idea.
I've never played Gothic. I've heard pretty good things because that is this THQ. And I think on average, until they started losing me on Saints Row, but I think the games were probably still quality. On average, I like THQ. I think they're specifically THQ Nordic, which was the only part of THQ that ended up staying when the company dissolved. But like, I like their other games. I like South Park. I think South Park is great. Honestly, one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games is a THQ game, and people forget it even exists, and it's called Quest 64. Which is a turn-based RPG.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
I've heard of that.
But I don't know. I haven't played the Gothic games to tell you, but I hear they're good. I just don't know how good they are.
They haven't released a game since 2006.
Yeah.
Wow. But apparently they are coming up with a new one. Maybe.
Well, that's
cool. Like 4, I guess.
So, talking about systems and price and things being under price, how they've sold, blah, blah, blah. Circling back to the beginning of this conversation, the PS4 will be or PS5 will be only $450 for a very limited time starting August 6th, which is kind of a steal with how stupidly expensive the PS5 is. And they will probably sell out really fast. So if you want it, you're going to have to hurry. Yeah.
Damn, I think I paid $700 for it or something.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you bought it a long time ago. The standard right now is $500.
Oh, really?
Because it did have a price drop at one point in time.
Yeah.
But it's going to be dropping down another $50 for something. I actually don't know why they're doing it.
But it's going back up after that?
Yeah, it just says for a limited time starting August 5th. I think August 5th is weird. I'm trying to figure out why it would be getting a discount then. You'd think they would have waited until like November for like Black Friday and the holiday season. Maybe it'll go back down again around that time. Who knows? But
trying to sell more Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, probably August 6th. So that's tomorrow. Actually, is when it starts. I don't have $450 that I want to spend on a PS5. But also, even if it was like $150, I don't know if I'd have that I want to spend on a PS5 either. I'm not exactly a fan of the console. But for people who've been looking to get into it, it might be the time.
Sounds good.
Let's see. What else? Oh, here was a funny thing. I thought this was pretty cool when I looked at it. So apparently, a streamer, I'm trying to find the name of him. do they not actually have the name of the streamer on here? That would be stupid. RT Game Daniel is the one who made the post, because there's a whole thing called RT Game Crowd. Has completed, after like 3 years, a thing they call New Earth, where they literally just made like as close to a 1-to-1 replica of the planet Earth in Minecraft. Where you like the whole Earth, you could go like anywhere. They even have like a 2-kilometer tall North Pole for some reason, just so like you can see the North Pole from like miles away. But yeah,
like including buildings or just,
I don't know. It's a very complex map. And they said they've been to all the capitals. It's just Minecraft. The map is called New Earth, and it took 3 years of construction. It's not 1-to-1 at all, but the map is built on a 1 to 4,000 scale of Earth.
wow.
Yeah, which is still like incredible. Meaning that horizontally it spans 10 kilometers, which is not that big.
How? Wow.
Yeah. But that's still crazy to make a 10-kilometer map of the Earth that is precise.
Like they even did like the land to match.
They probably
like,
used Google Maps to help, I would assume, or Google Earth, which is what a lot of people were using for Minecraft maps back in the day. There's one of the almost 1-to-1 scale model of the UK that you can download from the United Kingdom Park Service in Minecraft.
I didn't even. I can't imagine how you do that, and I can't imagine spending the time to do that.
Yeah, well, apparently it takes 3 years. So.
Apparently, I mean, and surely there were dozens or hundreds of people that worked on it, right?
I think so. Apparently there is a team, right? The RT Games crowd, and he says we. That is crazy. I always appreciate. I don't even play Minecraft. I have no desire to go back to playing Minecraft again. Though I probably should log in and transfer my original Mojang account to Microsoft. I think I still have a week to do that, or else I lose my Java version. Just in case, for some reason, 30 years down the road, I want to go back to Minecraft. I think if I transfer over, I also get the current edition for free too, because I was an original supporter. But I have no desire to play Minecraft. I still appreciate when people do stuff like this. To me, it's cool. It's almost a form of artistry because it takes a lot of dedication to pull something off. Like when those people spend several years making all of Middle Earth in Minecraft. I thought that was insane.
Yeah. Actually, so I'm reading the website. So the world layout was pre-made somehow. So yeah, I was wondering, like, how did they get the continents all in the right shape?
Yeah, I think
and
they probably used Google Earth to do that, which is what they did for the UK map as well.
So all the work, the 3 years of work, was basically putting in all the buildings and roads,
landmarks,
and
capitals,
landmarks,
everything like that. Yeah. They also added
And it
some
looks like they didn't-
regions. They have regions. If you look at there's like this one block in the middle of the ocean. They have a place called Atlantis, and they have New Haven, and a bunch of different things. Yeah.
It looks like they didn't do South America though. Weirdly, like at least the picture on their website.
Stuff. I see it on the shared map on the article I'm reading.
Oh, okay.
There's a big blog, or big block area that just looks like it's the Amazon rainforest, but it does look like there's like cities and stuff.
All right, so the map I'm looking at must be old.
It might be, yeah.
There's like these donut-shaped areas in Greenland.
Yeah, I see that.
That apparently they did.
It also looks like they've got some DUMBs, some deep underground military bases and stuff like that in like Antarctica.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like the website says like, people weren't allowed to dig like infinitely deep or to the normal level.
Yeah.
Minecraft lets you. So there's a limit to how deep you could go, a limit to how high you could go. So yeah, that's neat. Cool.
Yeah. So we also
I will
have.
not be playing on that server.
I won't either. I won't be playing on any server because I don't play Minecraft
Yeah.
anymore. I played it shortly. I got back into it after my initial purchase because I had some friends who wanted me to play with them on a server. And I'm like, okay, well, I played by myself, so maybe I'll like it more if I play with some people. And they were extremely dumb about it. They had they built their own economy and stuff, and everybody had to have a job. And I built an underground base that nobody knew where my secret lair was until I intentionally left clues for them to stumble upon my secret lair, and they were blown out of their mind because I had a small house, but then there was a back door that went down even lower, and there was this huge lodge that I had dug out of the ground and built with an infinity pool. And then I was like, I'm an adventurer. That's my job, right? So I go out and get the stuff that they didn't want to risk the danger. And I broke their economy by convincing all of the men that it would be more fun to go out and be crusaders, adventuring to get stuff. And the women just stayed behind, scared, wanting to raise their crops and stuff. And their economy collapsed. So I'm kind of proud of myself for that one, but I don't play Minecraft anymore.
No. Interesting.
There's no better, easier way to collapse society than convincing men that there's a crusade to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got some based words from Hideki Kamiya, who is retiring. You know Hideki Kamiya, right? Bayonetta creator, also worked on Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, a bunch of different games. And he is actually trying to take the reverse stance that a lot of people have been taking, and is trying to convince Japanese devs that they should be proud of the term JRPG. He's on the same page that I'm on, which I often find myself on the same page of Kamiya, even if he is a weird artist that sometimes does things in his games that aren't necessarily good for the game, but nowhere near on Kojima levels. But Kamiya is typically based, and this time he is as well, and he wants people to not treat it as it's some type of insult or slur or anything like that, and actually embrace the term JRPG.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I totally agree.
I mean,
yeah.
I didn't understand why people were not liking the term. I was like, well, it's descriptive. I mean, it's not every JRPG is exactly the same, but there's certainly aspects and tropes that it usually encompasses, and I personally love JRPGs.
I enjoy white RPGs.
Hey, Dillard.
You mean Western? The W stands for Western, not white.
Oh. I like
Very
it far
good.
more than the Japanese RPG.
Okay. Fair enough.
But, it's
Welcome
to each
in.
their own.
You got a new.
That's that would
PSP
include
there.
something like. Would that include something like Grand Theft Auto?
Grand Theft Auto is not an RPG, except for maybe Vice City and San Andreas specifically.
Really? I thought those were the number one example of a Western MMORPG.
No. Though,
Well,
maybe
my
Grand Theft Auto
mistake then.
Online might be. There's definitely a lot more RPG aspects, and Grand Theft Auto Online is an MMO, so that one might count. But
I mean,
even
there's some
5
people that
itself
take the
doesn't.
RPG aspect of Grand Theft Auto to the extreme on YouTube.
Oh yeah. But it's not even necessarily the RPG. It's just the RP, right? They're just role playing. But I guess they kind of almost treat it like a tabletop game. It's just the game isn't built to be an RPG. They're turning it into one.
I guess I have a fundamental misunderstanding of what an RPG is then. But that's to be expected. I'm not really in that sphere.
Yeah, well, I understand because a lot of people and you're right to think that, believe that an RPG should have exact overlap in video game as it does in tabletop, right? And the term does come from trying to capture the feeling of tabletop and turn it into a video game. But due to the restrictions of games back when they first started to do that, video game RPGs and tabletop RPGs kind of like veered into two completely different categories.
Mm-hmm. Fizchozo sounds like he wants to play Baldur's Gate 3.
Maybe. I just don't know if he likes
In which
turn-based
case-
games.
Yeah. And that seems like the game where you build the character you want and then gain power as that character. Like pretty much all RPGs.
Yeah.
But
no,
Asmongold had an interesting...
Oh, I was going to
Go
say,
ahead.
I have no problem specifically calling Grand Theft Auto Online an RPG. I actually don't. You do your character levels, you gain stats, you create your character, you get to choose how your character acts in the world, and even how the world responds to your character. So that one, I have absolutely no problem. Same with Red Dead Online. The online versions of the games, I can call them RPGs, and even MMORPGs.
Asmongold had an interesting video on Baldur's Gate 3.
I saw it.
And where I totally agree with his points. I don't think I'm going to get it just because I've never really been into Baldur's Gate. But it was basically like, look, it's a huge AAA game, or AA, whatever you want to call it, Larian Studios, and it's a full game. There's no DLC. There's no microtransactions. There, you don't pay an extra $20 for a stupid outfit or something.
Yeah.
This is what games should be, where you buy the game and you get the whole game, and that's it, and that's all you spend. So that was his big props to Baldur's Gate 3.
I found it funny though, because he said like, I am buying it although I'm not playing the game. And honestly, the reverse is true, because he already bought it and he
Yeah, it
already
turned out
played
he
the
had.
game.
Yeah, he bought it during. He forgot
Yeah.
that he bought it during the early access. But I don't know that he won't. Like, I think he even specified, like, I'm not saying I definitely won't ever play it. Oh, well, plus, did he play it after that?
I don't know if he's played it yet, but he played it during the early access,
Yeah.
so he has already played the game too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, his point was basically like, you should support this game, even if you don't like this kind of game, because but obviously most
so
people aren't gonna
I
buy a game if you're not gonna play it.
mostly agree with him. Mostly. There are other reasons you may not want to support this game.
Sure.
Personally, even as far as turn-based, I don't dislike the older Baldur's Gate games, but they're not really games that I super enjoyed either. And from what I've seen, this game just literally takes the same type of mechanics and updates it modernly. So it's like, I probably won't enjoy it that much more than the last one.
Mm-hmm.
But also, there's a loud noise. What am I getting at? Oh, also, it does seem like the devs are kind of a little bit on almost the woke side.
Sure.
With some of the stuff that they're doing. They actually intentionally make it to where you can't make pretty characters in the game by like any degree. And I don't like that. If I want to make a custom character, I want it to look good and I can't.
Yeah, there's a penis slider,
Yeah.
but there's no boob
No
slider.
breasts. Yeah. And it's like, no, I don't want to. Like, there are other reasons to not support the game. It's like, I'm already don't know if I'm going to have fun with it anyway. I'm not going to buy a game to support. Yeah, we shouldn't have DLC or microtransactions, all this stuff, to also support other things that I don't like in the industry.
Yeah.
So, count me out.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I get it. But he was focusing on the one thing, so
Yeah.
that drives a lot of people nuts. Is
What a
their whole...
sticky wicket. Because I'm the kind of person that would be like, yeah, you know what? I would support something that's doing something that I like, that's making the change that I want to see happen in the industry that I enjoy. But at the same time, if they're doing two things, if they're doing shit.
Especially if,
Yeah, I know.
for me, the other
you
thing
got
I
it.
think might be worse than the stuff that they're not doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough. Like, I don't know. I guess you got to figure out which one is more important to you, or
Yep.
just only buy the game if you looks like you want to play it. I mean,
Well, that's
frankly,
me. That's me. That's period. It's like if the game
Yeah,
looks
like
fun.
I go to the voting booth and I'm like, well, I hate cops, but I also really, really like guns. So what do I vote for?
Yeah,
I hate cops, but I also like people not taking my stuff,
yeah,
which involves both the cops and your own personal guns. So it's like, yeah, very sticky wicket.
Why can't I just be my own cop? There you go.
Yeah.
There's no box to check for that though.
No. And also cops come in handy when you happen to not be home and can't be your own cop and need somebody to actually do detective work afterwards.
Then they're gonna show up to my house and find my weed.
Well, hide it.
isn't it
Filthy
legal in
cops.
California?
I've never had an interaction in my life with a cop where I came out better for it.
Yeah. I don't know if I've had an interaction with a cop where I came out worse or better. I think all of them just kind of like, it's like a Seinfeld episode
Neutral.
or something. It was just like everything reset to the same afterwards.
It's like nothing good happened, but yet
I usually-
also wasted
Yeah.
7 hours.
Yeah, I usually walk away with either a ticket, a court date, or both. Neither of those are good.
I've never had a ticket.
Yeah, best case scenario, you waste a lot of your time.
Yeah,
I've been caught deep trespassing on people's property where I definitely shouldn't be, and I've still never been ticketed or thrown in jail. I'm just that smooth of a talker sometimes.
I even, obviously called the cops when I got mugged as a child many years ago, and it ended up being a complete waste of time because they never
Yeah.
even bothered to try and find the the mugger.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I also have the
That's how it
advantage of growing up in a smaller town. So obviously we got more and more cops as the town got bigger. But when I was real young, we had like the sheriff, the marshal, and maybe there were up to 10 other cops in the town at any point in time. Right. So you kind of just knew them all and they knew you. So even if you were trespassing deep into somebody else's wooded property that you shouldn't belong, as long as you don't have any contraband on you and don't actually look like you're up to no good, you probably could still get out of it.
Yeah,
Well, there goes Metal and Old Man McGillicuddy's cabbage patch again.
Yep. Can't stop me.
stealing crops as always.
Or worse, leaving rodents in the area to destroy
Trying to
the
leave the
crops.
scene of the crime with a pocket full of homegrown carrots.
No. This is sabotage, right? The reason they didn't find any contraband is because I brought something there. Like, I'm going to leave, like, insects, aphids, and stuff at the place. It's like, no, there's nothing in my pockets because I already left it. You guys were too late.
That's interesting. I was trying to figure out a way to get somebody's house condemned, and I was thinking, some sort of an infestation.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of infestation could I introduce into this house that then, after it was abandoned or condemned or sold, would I be willing to move into?
Oh, see, that's rough, right?
really wanted
Because it's like getting rid of it afterwards.
Yeah,
Like, I could get
Not
you some
termites, I
Africanized
guess.
termites, but that you're not moving in after that.
Watch me.
In fact, if you are willing to rebuild the house, right? Because the property will be cheap.
Hey,
that house has to
location.
go. Yeah. In fact, fire is the only way you're getting rid of those Africanized termites.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't think I'd want to live. I'd just be anything that had an infestation. At the very best, you're still gonna have dead things in the walls. Like even if you
Yeah.
get rid of them. It's like, is it really gone forever?
I think it'd be easier
It-
just to haunt the house.
Yeah, there you go. That I could put up with.
What if I were to plant narcotics at the house and then call the police?
Well, I mean, you could. You'd have to be very careful on it and don't leave any traces of yourself. But yeah, you definitely could.
Did
Very
Sketchbook
expensive.
make a donation or?
No,
Did I
no,
miss-
I forgot to
Oh.
turn the donations back on at the beginning because I'm using the
Oh.
same screen for this, and when I do the Star Rail,
saw
and
it on
my
Yeah.
my camera is usually right there when I'm playing video games on
Yeah.
stream. So I forgot to turn the
I
donations.
saw it out of the
back
corner
on.
of my eye. Yeah, I saw it move, and I was like, "What? Wait a minute! What just
But
happened?"
people should totally make donations to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive if they like the show.
Yeah.
Because we are over. It should be time to.
Speaking of the show,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you all for showing up. If you enjoy the show, please share it out with somebody else who would like it, grow the audience. That it helps out more than you think. And like I just said, if you really enjoy the show, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitoriumlive. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Watch out. Maybe sometime this weekend I might drop a video on my other channel, 1.2 TMTV, or 12.2 TMTV. If you want to be able to find it, it is literally youtube.com/TMTV122. It might be fun. I've been working on it a little bit, so we'll see you guys later.
Also,
birthday,
watch out
Peach.
for African termites.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And happy birthday to Peach.